And we're live. Tell me how to pronounce your first name.
Absolutely. I get this question all the time. It's Rodlena Sales. So Rodlena is spelled, I mean, it sounds just the way it's spelled. Tell people all the time. It seems a little overwhelming when you look at it, but it's literally two names put together. So
Okay, awesome. Well, hi, Rodlena. Very nice again to meet you virtually. I'm so happy that you decided to take some time to chat with me. Um, Throughout this month, I've been connecting with various professionals, specifically people of color, just to get an idea of what you're doing in the community and what some of the challenges are. So, if you would please start by introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about what your firm does and who you are.
Sure, great. Thank you for this opportunity. I think when I first got the email, I thought it was just such a great idea to highlight, showcase, especially attorneys doing estate planning work, right? But in any event, just a little bit about me. Again, Rodlena Sales. By day, I serve as a public interest attorney. So I work for a nonprofit legal clinic, and then at night I do nights and evenings. I have my own side practice law firm, the law office of Rodlena Sales Esquire. The work that I do during the day varies as a lawyer because I work in multiple areas of the law. However, my own practice focuses in on estate planning, as well as estate probate and administration. It's a very small practice, and I don't have a high clientele, but there's a reason for it, and we could talk about that a little bit more later. But in any event, and I've been practicing law going on 9 years. I'm an attorney licensed in the state of Pennsylvania, hoping to be licensed soon in New Jersey. And I'm not sure I could keep on going on. So if you want to stop me at any point, feel free to do that.
No, you're fine. You sound like a very, very busy lady. I mean, to do full-time work, nonprofit work during the day, and then of course do estates work at night. I'm interested to know though, what made you decide to kind of zero in on estate planning and probate administration?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So that will explain why I opened up my practice. So some of the work that I do within the nonprofit, my day work, we do a lot of what we can call tangled titles, but it's really just deed transfer work. And so a lot of the work I do is based out of Philadelphia. And there's a huge population of homeowners. In a sense, they're equitable owners, but not actual owners, meaning they're not on the title. And so we do a lot of work with helping those individuals untangle their title. And so throughout the doing that type of work, I started noticing that what was often happening is a deceased individual did not have someone to talk to him or her about estate planning, creating a will, a trust, whatever, to transfer the property properly to the next generation and or heir, loved one, etc. And then my clients, and it's didn't have a clue as to what that was. And so being in the nonprofit arena, they're using income gap. In terms of there's an income restriction into who you can service. And then there's individuals who need the service, but quite can't afford a high price attorney, but kind of need someone that's kind of in the middle. And so I kept on kind of looking around in the area to find someone who had kind of like sliding fee kind of base within their firm, and could not find that. And so I would oftentimes get individuals say, well, do you do the work on the side? Why won't you help out? And so what I end up doing is just following up with my employer, making sure that was something I could do in addition to the work I was doing with them. Found out that was okay. Decided to create the law office of Rodlena Sales. And that is the reason why I started kind of doing estate planning, kind of had to hone in and learn all the skills that I could possibly get to try to make myself competent as a lawyer, right? And so in any event, did so, and then I've been servicing individuals through estate planning assistance since April of last year, 2021.
That's awesome. So what you've described as tangled titles sounds similar to what we refer to as air property.
Yeah, it sounds like, yeah, yeah, I've heard of that term too.
So
Yeah.
it definitely sounds similar, and there's a great deal of it in the Carolinas as well. And as you've noticed and mentioned, a lot of our people tend to get involved with it a lot more than others.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, what are some of the challenges that you have faced trying to practice in this space,
Mhm.
specifically trying to help our people understand the importance of this and that it's not just paper pushing or what most people often think about when they think of estate planning?
Sure. I mean, I'm going to speak, straight from the heart truth, within family as well as in a professional sense. We as Black people consider anything about our stuff to be private, right? And
Yeah.
what I often hear from family members as well as clientele that I work with is I don't want anybody knowing my business. That's including you. And then when I work with families who's unfortunately the decedent did not do any estate planning, it was like mom or dad kept everything private. They didn't want us in there, in their business. And so I'm often faced with that challenge when I first speak to individuals about estate planning. And so I have to kind of overcome that. I don't want anybody in my business. I don't want them to know what I have or what I don't have. They'll figure it out when I pass away, and trying to help them understand the power and the control right in that, and being able to make plans now, and also reminding clients as well as family members that I'm a lawyer. I got the lawyer hat on. And then also, you don't have to share the details of your estate plan with loved ones and family members. You need to inform them of those documents. They need to know where to access those documents in the time when they need them, right? But they don't need to know the details of those documents until they're ready to be used, right? And so sometimes when I explain that to clientele, it oftentimes gives them feel a little bit more at ease, because they feel like as soon as I create this estate plan, I got to give it to that person. They got to know everything. Then they're going to start fighting. I'm like, no, 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 no. They can start fighting after you pass away, right? Just let them know where that document is, right? Let them know how they can access that document when time comes, but you don't have to give them. And I know lawyers practice different in that area, and there's all different ways of handling it, but that's kind of how I overcome it. And that is that resounding comment I hear. I don't want folk in my business. I don't want to give them my property, blah, blah, blah. So I hope I answered that.
You did, and honestly, I see a lot of the same thing, and I can definitely relate to the I don't want anyone in my business, or I don't even want to share with you what's going on. And I try to explain to clients all the time that it's important for me to be all up in your business because that's the only way for me to properly advise you. And it's not just about you telling me what you want,
Mhm.
but me understanding your family dynamics well enough to tell you whether or not what you want makes sense.
Yes, yes.
Um, and sometimes people will give in, but then other times they're still kind of, hesitant. So
Mhm.
it's definitely an area to work through.
Right.
As it relates to our people specifically,
Mhm.
another big issue that I face or hear all the time is that they don't really believe that they actually have an estate. The word sounds
Mhm.
sophisticated, and it almost sounds like you have to be a millionaire or a multimillionaire in order to have an estate plan. So
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit about your how you navigate through that,
Mhm.
some maybe one experience where you have dealt with someone who didn't really necessarily have an estate, but there was some drama because they didn't actually have something in place.
Sure. I mean, when I talk to clients, oftentimes they're individuals who are low income, maybe lower middle income kind of individuals. And so I think that the problem oftentimes is people's misunderstanding as to what an estate is, right?
Right.
And as you were saying, the automatically people think I got to have a whole bunch of houses, I got to have a whole bunch of cars, etc. And so the first way that I attack that is I explain to them that your estate is anything you can think about that you own, right? From the time you turn 18, because we got to kind of remember that part, to when you started accumulating stuff. Because I sometimes I talk to students about this, and I'm like, even if you think about your dorm room, those things, those items in your room, Lord forbid you pass away tomorrow, those items belong to you and someone has to take claim of them. So I have to explain to individuals that it's more than the house, it's more than the car, but it's all the little stuff in your house. It's those accounts, banking accounts that you don't think about. Even if you don't have retirement or other investments, that though it's those things that we often, it's the money in your drawer, right? That if someone finds it when you pass away, folks will argue over that $20 that cousin so and so found in the drawer. And so I have to start off by explaining that. And so I had, for example, I had a client who her mother did not have an estate. And when she passed away, what happened was siblings started fighting over. She didn't own property, but she had some tangible items within the home, and then she had a significant amount in banking accounts, and then of course the insurance proceeds, etc. In any event, people were fighting over things like a TV and a couch, right? And the reason why they were fighting over it was not the monetary value of it, but it was because I sat in front of the TV with grandmama or godmom, right? Or I sat on this couch, and it was the memory of it. And so I often tell clients, while you look around and you say, I don't own a home, all I got is this couch or all I got is this bed. When you leave here, your loved ones are going to take, there's memories that those items hold that your loved ones are going to keep to remember you by. And those are things that you oftentimes people oftentimes do not think about. And I try to get individuals to see that that is an estate, right? Those are the small things that, while you may not have to file it with the Register of Wills or whatever it's called in the Carolinas, those are things that if you have a plan, your family know how to divide it out. And with all that grief that is going on, they're not fighting over little things and not explaining why they're fighting over the TV or the couch, etc. And so that's kind of a way that I kind of explain the state aspect of it and kind of deal with people say, well, I don't have anything to give. I don't have anything to leave. Yes, you do. What's in that apartment? You know, you drove here to see me, right? That car, Lord forbid you die tomorrow. It may be worth $20 to you today, but somebody can use that to, I don't know, your granddaughter, 18 years old, to get to and from her little job or whatever it might be. So I have to constantly remind, I know it might sound crazy, but I have to constantly remind clients of the little things. That's an estate. Family too. Those little things are estates that we don't think, because it doesn't have a huge dollar attached to it. Right. But people want to know what you want to do with that, right? It helps your family grieve without having to think about what they're going to do with all the things that you accumulated in your home, your bank accounts, etc. So again, I'm talking, so you got to come in there and stop me.
No, you're good. And for me, a big thing that I explain to people is that estate planning is so much more than just leaving things. You also have to get your ducks in a row for what you want to happen during your lifetime. So, of course, in the age of COVID, a lot of people who are younger, who may not necessarily think about having an agent to serve as their healthcare POA or their durable POA, that's all part of your estate plan. And then you mentioned, God forbid something happen to you and you get into a car accident. You may be broke and you may not have anything in the bank, but what if there happens to be some type of lawsuit after your death? And suddenly you, the broke person, has thousands or a few hundreds of thousands that has to be distributed. How then is that taken care of? So bringing that to the surface for people, sometimes it can be challenging, but those are all the points that we have to make. I want to kind of know what you do to kind of help our community specifically. I know for me, education is key. We try to educate our clients, our communities as much as we can, but piercing into the communities that look like us tends to be more of a challenge than dealing with others. I hate to say it like that, but other communities are more receptive to planning, and they tend to open up a little bit more. I hate to say that most of my clients don't necessarily look like me, and I wish they did. So what do you do on your end to not only educate our people, but to stress the importance of this to them?
That's a tough question because the education part is mainly what I do. I oftentimes so through the work that I do in the nonprofit arena, public interest sector, and then the work that I do in my own practice is majority educating, right? So what I mean by that is oftentimes, black, brown, white individuals will contact me for estate planning assistance. And so I do that initial consultation, and within that, I'm educating them about what a good estate plan is, right? As you mentioned, oftentimes it's more than just after you pass away, but it's what happens during and throughout, and at the end of your life, right? And that is a tougher sell sometimes for me, in my experience, than to sell the will, because for some reason people can imagine dying, but they cannot imagine the inability to do while they're alive, right? No one wants to know about I'm laying in the bed and I'm incapacitated and someone else has to make decisions for me. But in any event, oftentimes majority of the consultations intakes that I do is me educating and kind of giving the spiel what I just did there. And so other than educating, it's hard to get to the next step to actually do the plan, right? People can talk to you about it, but I guess I don't know if this is the right word, but the morbidity of talking about estate plan, actually doing estate planning is very difficult for individuals to do. And I still struggle with that, right? But the way I kind of live with it is that at least he or she or they have left that conversation knowing more than what they did when they came into the room and we started to have that discussion. And then what'll happen is maybe months later, individuals come and say, I thought about it. Yeah, I'm ready to create that estate plan. But can we just take it one step at a time? Which document do you want to start with? What makes you most comfortable? That's how I often do it. Now, I'm like, based on our conversation, you may want to start here, but if this makes you feel more comfortable and it'll get you to the next step, to the next step, the next step, then we can start there. So, around a way is like, I don't really know how, and it seems like from what I've looked at, you have way more estate planning experience than I do. So I love to hear how you do that beyond how when you can't educate. But the thing is that's kind of an area I still struggle with because I don't know how to get our people to listen and do so.
It's an area that I struggle with too, and unfortunately, no matter how many times you bring it up and you explain, well, everybody's talking about their legacy. That's kind of the word that a lot of people tend to throw out there lately. They want to protect their legacy. They want to protect their family legacy. And I try to stress to people that part of protecting your legacy has to do with planning. If you don't have something in place, then you're messing with the ability to create a good legacy or to leave a good legacy behind. But it's definitely something that I struggle with because our people tend to have this mindset where it's like, well, when I'm gone, it's not going to be my problem anymore. I don't really care about it. Whatever happens, happens. As long as they bury me, I'm good to go. So it really just is a conversation that we just need to keep having over and over and over again. I don't know. I don't know what's the best way of overcoming that, but I definitely think that there's a direct correlation between leaving a legacy for our children and planning. There's no way around it. So it's like when you explain that, it doesn't really click.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking about it over and over and over again is really all that we keep doing. But most of my clients don't look like me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will say the ones that actually retain me don't look like me. I'm able to get them to the door in the room, have the conversation, but taking the next step to actually do the work, and that's the difficult part for me.
I think when we're talking about, of course, as attorneys, when we're talking about people who need a criminal lawyer or a family lawyer or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's something where they are, they know that they're about to lose something.
Yeah.
They're about to lose their freedom or they're about to lose a loved one or whatever the case
Mm-hmm.
may be. So they feel empowered to take action immediately. But when it
Right.
comes to this seems to be an area where people think they have a little bit more flexibility and they can kind of drag
Mm-hmm.
their feet a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just talking about it and explaining the importance is really all that we can do.
Yep, I completely 100% agree. And I mean, I hate to kind of sound like just on my people we not doing, but it's difficult even with my white clientele, right? But I think that, like you said, the mindset of the white clientele kind of understanding protecting one's legacy is attached to planning. If I don't have a plan, then I'm not really protecting, right? Whatever I do while I'm living, I can build, 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 build. And if when I pass away, there's no plan, everything I work so hard for will just go to the wayside, right? Your family may get some of it, but majority of it is going to go into other hands and pockets and places you don't want it to go. And that's why I try to drill in individuals' heads, And then it's the younger ones too. It's not even just and educated, right? Like my friends, my colleagues, I'm trying to talk to them about they own the same, property like me, and they got cars and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, you and I talk about this stuff all the time. I tell you, I have an estate plan, and I'm reaching you. I'm here trying to reach out to you to get you, and you're educated. You understand the importance of protecting your assets while you're alive, but yet you don't want to think about it when you pass away. So I think for me, it's kind of like, when I see that, it's not just poor, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but it's not even just poor or uneducated Black folk, right? It's even the wealthy, rich, however you want to define them, educated Black folks that struggle with it, and it's upbringing, right? In other homes, they talk about that, right? That wealth trickling down and everything. And then we kind of always hear, well, I don't have anything to give you. I'm, da, 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 da. And I think that is kind of trying to retrain that mindset and realizing, well, mama didn't have or grandmother didn't have to give, but I got, right? And that's what I think. Like I have, and when I go, no matter what age that might be, I want who I want to have what I have, right? I don't want someone to make those decisions for me. And nailing that into someone's head, and like you said, continue educating, may push it a little bit further, you know?
Let's hope that honestly, as we continue to have this conversation, that we're reaching more and more people. And if we're able to get one or two more people who would otherwise ignore this topic to think about it more seriously, then it will make a world of a difference. Because another thing I tell my clients too, when they get to the point where, or when their children get to the point where they're fighting over the TV and the couch, and this and that, oftentimes the person who ends up actually winning in the situation is someone like me or someone
Mhm.
like you,
Mhm.
because we're on the other side of the fight helping them, navigate it, and then by the time they're done, they're left with nothing.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
left with nothing because they've already used all of the estate assets or whatever it is that they have to pay lawyers to fight over the TV and the couch, and then nothing is left after that.
Exactly. And I think sometimes, and I see a lot of this happening recently, is if we have these conversations in conjunction when we're talking about wealth building, right? I think that sometimes that helps because, what we're able to talk about in Black and Brown communities is how to get money, right? And we will talk about how to keep it through investments, but then that estate or that planning aspect of it is not always a part of that conversation. And I think if we all saw more of that, because if we're comfortable to talk about getting it and invest in it, then we should be able to talk about how to keep on building it throughout the generations. And I try to tell people that's the same discussion you're having, right? But it's just in a sense of you not always being able to benefit from that. But in a sense, you're just not here. But I'm not trying to get too deep about it. But yeah, I think if that conversation happened in conjunction with those other conversations, then maybe we as a community would be more open to it.
I think that's awesome. So, Rodlena, to kind of recap, if you had to leave people with two pieces of advice on what they can do to get their ducks in a row and make sure that their family legacy is properly protected, be it our people or anyone, what would you leave them with?
So if you're not gonna start actually creating your estate plan, then I think that the bare minimum you should be doing is collecting documents, important documents, and putting them in the safe in a common place, like I tell people, because at the end of the day, it's your right to create an estate plan or not, but someone's going to have to take care of things when you pass away. And oftentimes those things are scattered throughout the house. So it's like one of the a very small way of doing a plan for your estate is to just simply do that. Get your important documents together. And when I say that, that's life insurance plans, that's retirement investments, that's bank accounts that you have, multiple bank accounts. If you still got a mortgage or you refinance, all those things together. Sometimes even simple as putting your birth certificate and stuff. All those important things that we don't think about that we pull from here and there, put those together. And then, maybe that will make the individual feel a little bit more comfortable to take the next step. So do the bare minimum, do the little, and just plan simply. You don't need a lawyer for that, right? You don't have to pay anybody the big bucks for that. You can do that, right? So I like to tell clients that's the minimum. Even if they always tell me, even if you don't retain me and you don't leave with anything else, leave with that. Yeah.
I think that's awesome. Thank you again so much for taking time to chat with me today. Before we go, please tell people how they can reach you, where you are, and what type of work you can assist with in the future.
Sure. I can be found only on social media. That's Facebook and Instagram. And for Facebook, you can find me under the law office of Rodlena Sales Esquire. And then on Instagram, Rodlena Sales Esquire. The currently the work that I do is just estate planning. So that's wills, trust, powers of attorney, living will, health directives, how much you can think of. And then I do a little bit of estate or probate administration. And then little bit of small business planning. But those are the areas in which my practice currently focuses on. Maybe in the future I'll expand, but right now it's just an estate planning firm.
I think that is more than enough. Trust me. knowing how much that's involved in that, I think that is much more than enough. So. And you are located again in.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, I'm located in the Philadelphia area, but I'm a Pennsylvania licensed attorney. And so I tell people, I am willing to assist and service any client in the state of Pennsylvania. And how do I do that? Virtual, right? With the pandemic, virtual.
Yes.
Right? So as long as you're willing, yes, if you're willing to not have to see my face in person, I'm able to walk you from step A to Z virtually. So feel free, if you're in the state of Pennsylvania, to reach out to me. If you have estate planning needs, feel free to reach out to me.
All right, Rodlena. Thank you again. I greatly appreciate you.
Yes,
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.